Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the incredibly fascinating psychology behind people who actively choose not to post their lives on social media. You know exactly who I'm talking about, right? You're scrolling through your feed and suddenly realize there's a friend, maybe a coworker, who just never posts. No vacation pics, no fancy dinner updates, not a single selfie, just a blank grid and a default profile picture. Well, in a world that's constantly screaming at us to share everything just to exist, that digital silence, it feels almost rebellious. So let's unpack exactly what's going on in the minds of these non-posters and explore the quiet strength behind their offline lives.
Okay, let's jump straight into Section 1, the invisible online observers.
Like we just talked about, we all know someone who practically ghosts social media. And honestly, it's so countercultural right now to just exist without providing this constant, high-definition digital proof of your life. Naturally, we get curious. We wonder, are they hiding? Do they just hate technology? Or do they know something we don't? In an attention economy where visibility is literally currency, deliberately stepping out of that spotlight makes us fundamentally curious about what makes them tick.
Now, society's knee-jerk reaction is usually to assume these digital ghosts are just shy, awkward, or maybe even a bit antisocial. It's super easy to assume that if they aren't participating in the online conversation, they must just lack the confidence to do so. But the psychological reality completely flips that script. Research actually shows they are highly emotionally intelligent, deeply self-aware, and incredibly grounded. It's not about lacking social skills at all. It's about having a fundamentally different and honestly, a much stronger kind of mental resilience.
Which brings us right into Section 2, privacy over popularity.
Just think about the standard social media norm today. We post a picture, and then we sit back and wait for that slot machine payout of likes and comments to tell us we look good or that our weekend was actually as fun as we thought it was. It's this external validation loop, and it can get intensely addictive. But the non-poster, they bypass this entire system. They draw their strength from an inner security. They literally just don't need a chorus of acquaintances to validate their experiences. They can drink a perfect cup of coffee or watch a beautiful sunset without feeling any urge whatsoever to monetize that moment for social capital.
Psychologists call this a high privacy orientation. It's basically like putting a giant digital fence around your peace of mind. By not posting, they're essentially acting as the bouncers to their own mental real estate. They deliberately control who gets access to their lives. They deeply value keeping a firm boundary between the public and the private. And honestly, in a culture of constant oversharing, this is a highly protective, deliberate mechanism. They aren't shutting the world out. They're just actively guarding their energy to make sure their personal life stays, well, personal.
Let's move on to Section 3, self-aware and secure.
At the very core of this behavior is a psychological concept called self-concept clarity. Basically, this means having a rock-solid, crystal-clear sense of exactly who you are, what your values are, and what your goals are. Folks without this tend to drift a bit. They rely on the crowd to tell them what to wear, where to travel, what to care about. But because a non-poster's identity is already so securely anchored, they absolutely do not need a viral trend or 100 fire emojis to validate their existence. Their happiness is internally generated, and that frees them up to live so much more authentically.
They already feel complete. Let me repeat that because it's just so crucial. They don't need to post a selfie to prove their worth. Psychologists have noted that people with this level of emotional balance are remarkably less approval-seeking. So instead of curating this digital museum of themselves for virtual onlookers, all that energy is poured right into their real, tangible lives. They're investing in deep hobbies, strengthening actual present-moment connections, and focusing on real-world milestones that genuinely fulfill them.
And this connects to a fascinating cognitive trait known as an internal locus of evaluation. I absolutely love this term. Essentially, it means these deep thinkers act as their own judges. Just imagine someone with this trait getting a massive promotion at work. Instead of immediately drafting this long, polished post to broadcast the 500 random connections on LinkedIn, they might just quietly celebrate over dinner with their partner. They evaluate their success entirely based on their own hard work and the joy it brings them privately. They are completely unbothered by how many congratulatory comments they could have racked up online.
All right, Section 4, escaping the comparison trap.
That internal compass we just talked about, it acts as a natural shield against social comparison theory. Now, we all have this very human tendency to doom scroll, right? We look at someone else's tropical vacation, their brand new car, or some heavily filtered morning routine, and we subconsciously grade our own lives against it. Non-posters deeply understand this digital illusion. They recognize how rapidly social platforms distort reality into this unwinnable competition, so they simply choose to step entirely away from the measuring stick. By stepping out of that distortion, they're making a highly empowering choice. They consistently choose their inner peace over a public performance. Just think about the massive amount of mental energy you save when you don't have to keep up a facade, or carefully select the right filters, or anxiously manage a digital audience. By staying low-key, they're actively protecting their mental health from the sheer exhaustion of modern performative living. They keep their emotional baseline steady, calm, and undisturbed.
Which perfectly leads us into our final section, Section 5, Redefining Real Confidence. When we look at the complete anatomy of a non-poster, we see this incredible combination of traits. They value privacy over popularity. They have immense self-concept clarity and secure self-esteem. They're introspective, deep thinking, and they entirely escape the social comparison trap. When you put all of these elements together, you absolutely do not get someone who is running away or hiding from the world. You get someone who is profoundly and quietly secure in exactly who they are, where they are, and what they are doing.
It really all boils down to this one thought. They don't need to be seen to feel seen. It's a total mic drop concept. They feel seen by themselves, by their close inner circle, and by the actual people who matter in their everyday physical lives. For them, that internal, real-world validation is more than enough to sustain a rich, deeply fulfilling life.
So, as we wrap up our analysis today, I want to leave you with a provocative question to ponder. Does your confidence come from within or from the timeline? It's definitely something to deeply reflect on the next time you feel that sudden nagging urge to document a beautiful moment, rather than just living it fully in the present. I really hope this explainer has given you a fresh perspective on the quiet, grounded strength of the non-poster. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep learning and stay curious.